Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me on this Memorial Day. We're going to tackle the issue of government's intrusion into families, especially CPS, Child Protective Services. A recent paper out of the University of Texas, Austin, revealed that over 3 million kids have their families investigated. Their families are investigated by CPS every year. 3 million plus kids. Each kid basically has a 1 in 3 chance of getting targeted by government officials for potential separation from their families. According to this paper, pretty insane. I'm going to bring on a husband and wife whose 7 kids were taken from them by the government. So we're going to hear what all happened with their story. Can't wait for you guys to hear this. I know when I was doing the corporate news, we would come across these stories as well. I've interviewed parents whose children were unjustly taken, or in some cases, the kid was taken. The government promised it would only be for a certain amount of time. And then the parent did everything they were supposed to do, and the government never returned the child to their parent. It's really horrifying situations. Granted, in some of these cases, children are in bad abusive situations and they find protection from others. But in most cases, the person that loves that child the most is their own parent, and you should do everything you can to not separate the kid from their parent. How much power are we giving in today's society? I can't wait for you guys to hear directly from the husband and wife who are one of many targeted by the government for separation of parents and their children. Before we get into it, shout out to the sponsor of my coverage. Check this out. It might be healthier to breathe outdoor air than the air in your own home. A recent study reveals that our home's indoor air is up to 5 times more polluted than outdoor air. The study also says that lead, radon, tobacco smoke, and more can all increase the toxicity in our home's air. This is why I'm a huge fan of home air purifiers. I have mine right here. It's portable. This device uses best-in-class purifying technology to scrub 99.7% of indoor air pollutants. It is a 3-stage purification process, and it makes your home's air healthier than you and your family, for you and your family to breathe. The average person spends 90% of their time indoors. That time should be spent breathing in. It should not be spent breathing in toxins. So get this. I have noticed improvement in my air quality, which has helped my sleep. Imagine how much healthier your body could be with a home air purifier. If you want to make your home healthier, get a portable air purifier for up to 50% off during this Father's Day special happening now. Go to the link down in my description. That's www.amazingcleanair.com. That is amazingcleanair.com. Click that link down below. Highly recommend it. With that being said, I'm going to bring in Mark and Terry Stemmen. Thank you guys so much for joining me.
Hi, Ivory. Thanks for allowing us to be here with you today.
So, before you guys tell your whole story, I want to share a clip. You guys have been interviewed by a few shows about your kids being taken by the government, and so this happens to so many people. And I know in our newsrooms, because I worked in 4 different corporate newsrooms over the course of my 9-year corporate news career, and we would hear from these families all the time, and it was an automatic shutdown. Like, nope, we're not going to cover that. Okay, it's another issue of kids being taken from their parents. Not going to cover that. It's kind of a huge thing for your kids to be taken from you. So we want to dive it more into how that happens now that I'm free of the corporate news. But anyway, I'm going to show this clip so the viewers can see your kids, and then we're going to hear your story. Here is the clip from SGT Report.
Anyone buy rooms to go through all the Republican voters and Homeland Security will take the children. Okay? And we'll put them into re-education camps.
Amen.
Don, may I make a comment on the clip that you just showed, please?
Yeah.
They will use the CPS, family court, foster care system as a weapon. They already are. It happened in our case.
Hey friends, welcome back. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's fantastic to have you back here on BitChute or sgtreport.tv. Maybe you're finding us on Rumble or Odyssey. However you're finding us, thank you so much for tuning in. Friends, I have a very dramatic and important broadcast to share with you today. It's very troubling. Of course, we live in troubled times. These are the times that try men's souls. The story you're about to hear is actually right on point with the troubles we're all experiencing, the angst we're all experiencing. There is a demonic entity from PBS, a top lawyer there, who says the government should build enlightenment camps and remove children from Trump-supporting homes. I will play a soundbite from that demon in a second, but I just wanted to couch this conversation in the fact that they're coming after all of us, friends, if these people get in power. It reminds me of the Weather Underground and Bill Ayers, who said there would be a communist takeover of the country, and those that couldn't be re-educated to the new ways of thinking would be put in camps, and by their own estimation, 25 to 30 million Americans would have to be extinguished because they couldn't get on board with the communist ideals.
Horrifying stuff. It's great to see your beautiful family there. And you tell me this was 6 years ago that the government swooped in and took your 7 kids in Louisville, Kentucky. So take me through the story. What happened?
Well, yeah, thank you, Ivory. I'll pick up on that. First, I just want to say to all of our fellow Americans out there, and to you, Ivory, thank you for hosting us on your program. We have a really big problem in the United States of America right now, and it's even encompassing some of our Western allies. But I want to say right off the top that we recognize that child abuse and neglect is a very serious matter. And it's so serious of a matter that in just about every state, specifically to us, it is a criminal statute. And due process would require an investigation pursuant to an allegation of child abuse and neglect that would require a gathering of evidence, putting that evidence before a court, getting a warrant from a judge, pursuing all lawful due process that we have protections given to us by our state and federal constitution and pursuant state and federal law to that. Now, with that said, what's happening throughout the United States and what happened to us is we have many families, ourselves included, it happened 6 years ago, where we were proceeded against in a non-criminal matter. They framed it as a civil proceeding. And we had made no contract with anyone in the state of Kentucky regarding the welfare of our children. And so there really couldn't be a legitimate civil proceeding. And but that's how they proceeded against it. And what happened was someone made a claim that we were neglecting our daughter. Just in short, that we failed to get her medical treatment because we went to go see a practitioner that we had never seen before, just to get a simple eye test for our daughter because we wanted to get her driver's license. And what happened was, the doctor wanted to do additional assessment because Amy was tall and thin like us. And, we weren't comfortable with that because we didn't see that she had any other issues that would require that. And so what happened was that we went through this long-running series of days from an initial visit that happened in February 25th of 2016. And we refused to go back to that doctor. And we, for our own for our own peace of mind, and just because of our care for our daughter, we made another appointment with another practitioner that we were more familiar with. And Amy was given a good bill of health. We were pretty comfortable with that. We knew that. And there was several different things that were happening in that time frame from the initial visit on February 25th to when our children were actually taken. And so really when things really started getting rolling was on March 25th of 2016, when Terry began to get a phone call from someone who said that they were from CPS and they wanted us to call them back, saying that there was an issue that needed to be addressed. And because we could not verify that, we didn't reply right away. So later that night, this was on Friday, March 25th, we went to go for our normal family visit with Terry's grandfather, or the children's grandfather, Terry's father, and his girlfriend. And while we were there, we got this document from her as if it was from CPS saying that we need to call CPS. And so there were several different things that happened. And the next day we got an additional document on March 26th. And then for our own peace of mind, we had already set up another appointment with that second practitioner. So we went to that appointment. And then on March 28th, after that appointment, I went down to go see the CPS supervisor, who, when I met with him, I showed him the good health document. And he said, well, we have a medical diagnosis saying that your daughter is in imminent danger of dying and she has severe anorexia, and without treatment, she's going to die soon. And I was pretty shocked when I heard that, because I was like, well, I've got a good health document right here in my hand saying that, you know, there's no problem. And I asked for the document. He wouldn't give it to me, and he wanted me to submit to an interview. I refused. And so then the next day, this was March 29th, we got another document, as if from CPS, delivered to our house, which I thought was pretty strange, because I was just at the supervisor's office the day before. I'm like, well, why would I get another document after I just been there? And so later that night, I was away on some business, and Terry had a visit from a CPS person in the dark of night, and a police officer from the Louisville Metro Police Department, saying that they knocked on the door and they told Terry, what do you want to share that with everybody? What happened on March 29th?
Well, they wanted me, it was nighttime, and they wanted me to let them in to talk to my children. And I probably asked if they had a warrant, and so I wasn't going to let them in if they didn't have a warrant. And they ended. I told them, I think I was talking maybe to one of the officers and told him that my husband was a veteran, and if they wanted to wait until he got back home, and they ended up leaving at that point.
Yeah. So unknown to us at the time, under state law, Ivory, when they attempt to access a child in alleged danger issue, they're required to go then request a search warrant. Well, what happened was we later discovered that they did not do that. I returned later that night. Terry was pretty upset, and so tried to calm everybody down. The children were in bed, sleeping fine. Everyone's fine. And then I had taken a week off of work because I could see with this series of events that were unfolding that nothing looked right, and I wanted to be home to take care of my family. And so the next day on March 30th, I think this was a Wednesday, we had a police officer show up at our house, and a CPS worker, and they knocked on the door, and their first words to me were,
several police officers.
well, at first there were only two or three, and they knocked on the door and they said, Mark, need you to open the door, you lost custody of all 7 of your children, just like that. And I said, well, now why are you guys here? They never stated why they were there. My guess was because of where I had been, that this had to do something with Amy, but they would never say that. So I showed them the good health document. And after about 2 hours of this going back and forth, something did not look right to us. So eventually Terry called 911, brought out even more officers, because when they were refused entry by us because they didn't have a warrant, they had no paperwork. They said they were there on a verbal order, and we later discovered under family court process that they're not allowed to remove a child on a verbal order. So the officer told me through the door that he's like, you haven't committed a crime, you're not going to jail. And I'm thinking, well, you guys shouldn't even be here then. So after a couple hours unfolded, Terry called 911, additional officers came out, and then she called the news media, local news media. And then when they showed up and started recording, then things began to take on a little bit of a different tone. And then what happened was they left. So when you look at the paperwork, as this all unfolded in the ensuing days, they're there supposedly on an imminent danger issue regarding my daughter, Amy, and they leave. And so none of that looked right. And for us, what we discovered was that was an attempted kidnapping, a color of law kidnapping on their part, which really was not accomplished completely until April 6th, when I went to the court after we secured counsel. I went there with Amy, and when we went into the court, they made no attempt to take Amy directly to the hospital with her supposed imminent danger. And Amy stands up and says, I'm fine, I just want to go home. So the judge orders Amy to be taken to the hospital immediately. And they said, well, we have to detain Mark so until we get the other 6 kids. And then they called Terry on the phone. And the judge called Terry on the phone, and she says, I'm ordering you to release your other 6 kids. And Terry can tell, well, I guess it kind of makes her uncomfortable because it's a very traumatic thing that kind of unfolded there. But I was in court, and she hung up on the judge and said, I'm not giving anybody my kids. And so so they arrested me without charging me with a crime, and I was held for 22 hours, and I have a document from my attorney at the time saying I had not been charged with a crime. Later found out after going into the court file that there was a backfilling of paperwork to make it look like that I was being charged with something. Terry was monitoring it on the outside and saw a number of different things change in what she was seeing on the outside.
So it was basically holding him hostage for me to release our other 6 children that I was at home with. And and then he was able to just walk out of the jail the next day after they got all the children. Yeah,
so after that, that's when so they got the kids, and we've been on this long running journey trying to reclaim our children. We've been standing on the protections of our constitutional rights, which are very important to me as a veteran, but it should be for every American because that's what secures our freedom. And in the course of our many attempts to retrieve or to reclaim our children and you know, our livelihood, we have been denied every motion, every attempt along the way. One thing we refuse to do is to comply with the services that they want to force upon us. Now, what's happening here for your viewers is this is all being driven by the Adoption and Safe Families Act of 1997, which was initiated, and she takes credit for Hillary Clinton. It was one of her greatest achievements.
It takes a village, she said.
Yeah, exactly. So what it did was incentivize the CPS and family court system with large amounts of our Title IV Social Security money. So that for every service that they can force upon a parent as a prospective avenue to reclaim your children, which rarely happens, it does happen sometime, they get additional Title IV money. So we stood on the protections of our constitutional rights against involuntary servitude because we have not been charged or convicted of any crime. And I wasn't going to violate my oath that I took to that as a veteran. And so we've been standing on the protections of that constitutional protection and many others. And yet, because we would not comply with services that they wanted to force upon us, like a psychological evaluation, anger management, drug test, family counseling, that they eventually gave permanent custody of our children to 2 other couples. And we have been fighting for them ever since. And what we discovered in the course of a long-running time, several months, is that there is criminal activity occurring within the Jefferson County family court system, including with CPS. And what we discovered was toward the end of 2016, we went into the court file and we retrieved all the documents that we could get. And I had some letters that were saved by the girlfriend of Terry's father, who was given custody of our children after they were taken. And we began comparing images off of the documents that she had written from 2013 going back to 2005, where we were eventually able to retrieve a party invitation. And what I did was I began scanning all the documents and making comparisons of the images. And there's a very distinctive writing style. And what I discovered was that near exact images going all the way back to 2005, some exact images actually, off of these things, it appears that there were documents that were being scanned by this individual. And what we did was we solved the criminal activity of forgery and a conspiracy to kidnap our children using the CPS and family court system in Jefferson County. And so what we did was we began filing crime reports with every law enforcement agency available to us. We did not appeal because we didn't feel that with the amount of infiltration that we were discovering in that court system, that there was a place for us to appeal. So we pursued an avenue for criminal justice through our law enforcement agencies, beginning at the state level. We went to the state police. We went to a county sheriff. We went to the Department of Criminal Investigations, all the way up to the Office of the Attorney General, who was Andy Beshear, now the governor of the state of Kentucky. We went to the governor of the state of Kentucky. And then beyond that, when we began to discover the defrauding of the federal government and ultimately the American people, we began to go to the federal level and report those federal crimes. Now, what has happened to us is that we've been ignored and turned away everywhere we've been, all the way up to the highest levels of the Department of Justice. And even we tried to reach the president several times, and we went to our senators, McConnell and Rand Paul. We attempted to reach our representatives, and nobody would do anything to investigate or to open an inquiry. Because at the time, what we were seeing was all of the other corruption in the Department of Justice that was coming out at the time. And so we entered the public arena, having reached a point where we had no other place to go, and around September of 2020. And we have been highlighting this before the American people, because what we discovered is that Kentucky, their system began as a pilot project in 1991, their family court system. And what we think is happening, and talking to other families, that this is happening like a script where children are being kidnapped under the color of law, unlawfully, and they're being trafficked in child trafficking networks. We think that we've uncovered one on the evidence. We know on the evidence, and we have a significant amount of evidence. I don't have just like 10 or 20 images. I have over 1,100 images across all documents. And I PowerPointed all of these, and it uncovers the conspiracy. It uncovers the unlawful collusion between CPS and family court, which should be separate entities. There are private citizens that are involved. There are healthcare practitioners that are involved. And we have been now out here because we have nowhere else to go. And we're asking for the American people to please help in any way that they can, and to recognize that there is a threat that exists to them. And here's what the threat is. Under the Adoption and Safe Families Act, every year the states have to take more children in order to receive an annual bonus. And so as you have, like right now, we have around 450,000, give or take, children in the foster care system at any one time. And every year when you have those children age out or they get adopted out where they get an additional bonus, then they have to get more children. And so there's a continual thing going on where there are more children that are being taken in this way. And over 80% of the cases that that we're aware of, there's no crime. And people may hear commercials, asking them to be foster parents. And the reason for this is, one would think, well, why aren't they being placed with relatives? Well, the reason for this is there's the Title IV money, the big money, only flows out to the states, the state governments, the various systems within it, when they're placed in foster care, not with relative placement. There's not much, if any, money that flows out that way. And so there is a threat toward the American people. It's unlawful. We are being denied government of, by, and for the people. This happens in closed courts with one judge and just a few other people making allegations. We're now subject to oversight by the public. Closed courts, no juries. We requested a jury trial. We're denied it, which is a federal crime in and of itself. And they attempt to immunize themselves, Ivory. And here's where they stand with it. It's not really lawful, because under 42 U.S. Code, Chapter 21, Section 1983, our right to sue or to have remedy under the criminal justice system, it's just that. It's a right. And so we're being denied that right. And all of these rights that we're being denied, not just us, but our fellow Americans who are going through this, there are thousands of them in every state in our country going through this right now. They're being deprived of their rights, which are federal crimes. And that should be the paramount concern. Safety and best interest of a child is ultimately a parental responsibility unless it is a criminal matter subject to review by our fellow citizens. Yet what these people are doing is that they're proceeding in that fraudulent operation to steal our money and to steal our children. And so because our system of government has failed us, we have nowhere else to go but before the American people. And that's why what you are doing right now and highlighting this is so critical, because people don't really know what's going on. And so, we love and miss our children. We are fighting for them with everything that we have peacefully. But we don't have a system right now that's working for us. And ultimately, the American people are funding it. and they need to be made aware and move to action to do something to stop it.
The American people have no idea they're funding government kidnapping of kids in so many cases. Yeah, this article here, this is what I was citing at the beginning. utexas.edu, this study by a researcher, headline: "The tool we have: why Child Protective Services investigate so many families and how even good intentions backfire." And now it starts right off by talking about this issue of policing. It's like, what have the police become now? Police are supposed to fight crime, but it says here, in recent months, conversations around the role of the police have drawn mainstream attention to what contemporary policing actually encompasses. Responding to violent crime constitutes only a small share of police work. Instead, we often call on armed officers to address homelessness, mental illness, addiction, and other social adversities. And now it's coming to your situation where police are at your door snatching your kids. The study then says each year, U.S. child protection authorities tasked with responding to child abuse and neglect investigate the families of over 3 million children, disproportionately poor children, Black children, and Native American children. A staggering 1 in 3 children can expect a CPS investigation at some point during childhood. 1 in 3, that is just stunning. And it's interesting to me that you guys said that the news actually showed up initially. I bet the news dropped that story, didn't they?
Yeah, we actually didn't even speak to them that day because I think maybe it was just their presence of being there. After around 2 hours or so, they just left. They just left. The police just left, and
I bet the story never aired. This is what the news does. Exactly. It's like I said, in my 9 years, we would get the calls about these things all the time. Kids being taken from their parents by the government, and my boss's orders were to not cover it.
Yeah.
So I want to show you guys are now. You've got a website with resources for other families, right?
Well, we're building that. It's letourchildrengo.org, and people can reach us through email too. There's a contact page on the website. They can also reach us through email at letourchildrengo@protonmail.com.
And I've linked this website down below, you guys, as well as the Give, Send, Go, because like you mentioned, it's up to the American people to help out in this case, help fight back what is happening unjustly to certain families. Again, like I said at the beginning, some kids are genuinely being abused and tortured and even killed by their parents. Those cases are rare, and we're seeing 1 in 3 kids get targeted by Child Protective Services, according to the Texas study. So something else is happening, and here's a family that's putting everything in to fight this after their 7 kids were taken. So if the American people want to help out in the work that you guys are doing, I have linked your Give, Send, Go down below as well.
Thank you, Ivory. Yeah, we have a Give, Send, Go for our personal situation with our family. If anybody, would like to help us with that as we continue to work to reclaim our family and restore our family. Some of the viewers probably are wondering what the situation is with our older children, that 3 of them are now 18 or older. And so our family has basically been destroyed, and our children have been traumatized, and we do have faith that our family is going to be restored. We will continue to work on that as we continue to fight to rescue our other 4 children that are still underage. And then, yes, we do also have an outreach to other families that are going through this, to offer support to them. We have a 3-point mission statement to reveal what's happening, which is why what you're doing is so important, to reclaim our rights and to restore the families that are being affected. So we do offer support to other family members, and We do hope to be able to have resources and research and stuff on that website, but it's still in the beginning stages. And then we also have an organization called the Heritage and Freedom Coalition that's at h3fc.com that people can also check out. And there's more about our story also on both of those websites too.
Yeah, so that was just another thing, a little broader. And we want, freedom is very important to us, and as it should be for all Americans. So that's what was behind H3FC, or the Heritage and Freedom Coalition.
Awesome. And I should have mentioned earlier that I read that you homeschooled your kids, right?
Yes, our children when the children were taken, our oldest child was 17. That was Amy, the one who supposedly this started over, and our youngest child was 3. And our children had always been homeschooled. So we've been homeschooling for 17 years.
I want to bring that up because I think in some of these situations, these government officials see something that government official in their own closed mind think, they see it as abnormal. And so they swoop in and say, hey, I know better than these parents. And I'm just wondering if the homeschooling had to do with that.
Yes, they brought that up. They eventually drug that into it also.
Wow.
So
yeah, that was the other part of it. Once they began interviewing our children without an attorney present, or us allowed to be present, because we were basically told that after they were taken, we couldn't have anything to do with them until our first visitation, which didn't happen until about a month after they were stolen. Because they didn't know what grade they were in, that we were educationally neglecting them. Now, in our life, we were educating our children as a year-round thing, culturally, for them. And so we had different activities that we engaged them in. We were very active in the community. We had a sign in our front yard that said a library champion lived here when we were recording these things going on. So our children were all very smart, and they were all different places. They loved to learn. And the outcome of our educational neglect, as they framed it, was that after they put our children to their trauma in one of the worst public school systems, Amy became, within 9 months of after she graduated, she became a scholarship winner.
Wow.
And so, that was just the fruit of what we knew we were doing very well. And all of our other younger children, they were on the same track, and yet they were ripped away from that. We don't even know the status of it. We know that some of them may have been, and well, obviously one can just imagine. I mean, we know they've been hurt by what they've done to them.
They took medical decision and educational decision making away from us, and so we don't know what they've been injected them with. Told that they did back surgery on one of my children. So we don't even know probably a lot of the horror that they have been put through at this point.
Right. So some people may wonder, well, what did we have those visitations? And it happened, 2 or 3 times. And but we had to relocate because of the criminal activity that we were discovering, and because of the deprivations of our rights. So we are looking to reunite with our children in any way that we can. We want them immediately returned to us because they have been stolen. They were kidnapped. And we don't have any other avenue to go to but before the American people. And so our hope is that with the American people properly informed through what you and others are doing, because we're out here on behalf of so many others that this is happening to, that we can demand the corrective action from our systems that we pay to secure our rights and our freedom in proper due process, and yet are working in corrupt fashion to destroy livelihoods. Like in our case, they were coming after us for child support, Ivory. And so the destructive aspect of it is that once you get identified or labeled to be a child abuser or neglecting your children, it's really hard in respect to an already difficult economic climate to maybe even find a decent job. But then when you do, like in our case, they've been taking my military pension for child support, half of it. And it's totaled over, it was over $35,000. It's probably more than that now that they've stolen. And they've also come after Terry for child support, even though she was a stay-at-home mom. And so the amount of money that they say that you need to pay them after they steal your kids is far greater than what way maybe we would consider we would need to effectively and lovingly care and provide for our children. And so the amount is far higher. And yet, so they're getting paid all of our Social Security money for our children, and yet they're making parents, people like us. Not everyone has to go through it, but it's especially destructive for us in that way. And so, so we're out here on a mission, and that's kind of where we're out here to help other people who are in the midst of this, to let them know they don't have to be afraid. They have people who know what's going on, that we care. And we're getting the word out, and thanks to you and many others, we just hope that people can join together, because we need to show up. We need to take a stand against this. They're not responding to our emails. They're not responding to our letters. And when they do, it's just basically a brush off. And so we need to be more engaged, more involved, anything you can do, social media, or getting together with just a small group in your community is going to be instrumental. And then we need alternate media, people like you, to find out the truth on the facts of what's really going on, and not just let people get away with, oh, this is in the safety and best interest of a child, when really it's not. Our American children, our future, our country is being hurt by what they're doing to families. And they do re-educate them, like that clip you showed. That's what's happening even with our kids. They've been put with communist sympathizers. And so we're not able to pass on our American heritage, and so the people they're with are not along that line. And so, if they begin to adopt a mentality that we know is not going to be healthy for our country, and they're doing this to other children, if they even survive it, what are we going to reap on what we're allowing to be sown? It's not going to be good. And so the time is now to do something. And so, we're reaching out and let people know we're here, and we want to work with whoever we can, whether it be alternate media reporters such as yourself. We want to investigate a little bit more deeply, because we have a lot of evidence to disclose, and we're going to bring that forth because the American people need to see what we know is happening in this system. And we know it's happening in, like I said before, other parts of the country because of the national model that Jefferson County claims itself to be. And so, really appreciate you highlighting this. There's a lot more to it. There's, like I said, many, many other Americans who have even worse stories, where some people even watch their children end up dead in foster care. Thankfully, to our knowledge, at least, that has not happened to us. But it's just as hard when you're not with your child, because in some cases, and it can even be even more traumatic, because you never get closure.
Right.
And our children. It's like, the younger one, Abby, was 3 when she was stolen. And so now, it's been, this many years, 6 years, and we don't want to have to wait until she turns 18, if she, or would even be able to get that far. We want our children returned now. There's no reason for them to not be with us. We're very good, loving, caring parents, as are so many of our other American parents and families who are having this happen to them. And so we want to restore our system as it was intended to be. Criminal matters, government of, by, and for the people, jury trial, public oversight, not what these people are doing now. And it is part of a seditious operation that is tied in to so many of the other issues that we see unfolding. Because if they can take our kids, and who might not otherwise be injected with something that we may not agree to them being injected with, and they put it in them anyway, we know that people are being hurt by different things that are happening right now in respect to different things. And so we want to put a stop to this, because no one can love our children like we do. And so we thank you for taking in a part of our story for your viewers. And, we're happy to answer any additional questions. If people want to contact us, we have those email contacts on our website. But if you have any questions for us now, Ivory, we're happy to answer.
And I just want to say too, we're also on social media. People can find us, just search for Let Our Children Go.
For Let Our Children Go on social media. Also, link to their website down in my description, and the Give, Send, Go down in my description as well as that article I was citing, research from University of Texas. thank you, Mark and Terry, so much for telling your story, and best of luck to you as you continue to fight this.
We're going to keep fighting.
And I hope any viewers going through this will reach out to you guys, and hopefully somehow injustice at the hands of the federal government or state or local government can stop. Thank you so much. All the best to you, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your holiday weekend.
Thank you, Ivory.
Okay.